Earlier this summer, I was able to go to take in a Chicago Cubs baseball game at Wrigley Field. I haven't been there for decades. It was really interesting to me that around the stadium, there was a plaza with merchandise, of course, lots of Cubs stuff, but there was one Chicago White Sox shirt that was available. And for those of you who may not know how much bitter rivals those crosstown rivals are, they really don't like each other. You're either a Cubs fan or a White Sox fan. So, but I think the reason that particular White Sox shirt was available is it had an image of a batter ready to take a pitch, but the batter had a bishop's mitre on. So they're celebrating Pope Leo, who was and is a White Sox fan. He grew up on the south side of Chicago. Now, why am I talking about that? Well, it's because these readings today point to Jesus establishing the office of what we call the Pope, which is based on the word papa, or father. And it's not without precedence either, because in our first reading from the Old Testament, we hear of Eliakim being appointed as sort of the prime minister of the house of David. And there's lots of parallels there. For example, Eliakim is the keys to the house of David have been placed on his shoulder. And in the New Testament, Jesus gives Peter the keys to the kingdom. So there's a parallel there, right? And there is a, also another parallel is the sureness of these two offices. Eliakim is supposedly like a peg secured in a firm place, not going anywhere. And Peter is the rock upon which the church will be built. So there's a sureness, a firmness for both of these men in this reading. And of course, this firmness, this orderliness is something that is very important, I think. And I would also say that, so we have Peter established as what we call the Pope, even though the word Pope doesn't appear. That is a term that we use now. It doesn't appear in Scripture. The concept is clearly there. We just read it. We just heard it. And we also hear elsewhere in Scripture this idea that when an apostle passes away, then he is replaced by the apostles. Matthias is replaced. He replaces Judas Iscariot. We read in the Acts of the Apostles. So this idea of succession, of someone taking the place and maintaining that office, is in Scripture as well. Now, thinking again about Pope Leo, our current Pope, I remember where I was when I first heard about it. Maybe you do too. It was just amazing to hear that there was an American elected to be Pope, to lead the church. And I went back and read what his opening comments were when he was first came out on the balcony at St. Peter's Square. And his first words that he said were, "Peace be with you. Peace be with you." What is peace anyway? What does he mean by peace? He means more than the absence of war. He means, and I actually looked up in my little Catholic pocket dictionary what the definition is. Peace in that dictionary is the tranquility of order. The tranquility of order. So Jesus established this order to have someone leading the church to represent him in his absence, in his earthly absence. He's still with us in heaven. So I think this orderliness, I think it's interesting. I preached earlier this summer about how our God is a God of order. And I didn't plan to have a theme this summer, but one is emerging. Our God is a God of order. And today we hear about the establishment of the order of the papacy. So that is a beautiful thing, that we have this comfort, this orderliness. And we can take solace in this, that we have this in the midst of the changing world, which we heard in our opening prayer. Jesus and God's inscrutable ways, his wisdom that we hear about in our second reading from the book of Romans. This is his plan. And we can take refuge in this. Faith, our faith, is a refuge for us. Let's rejoice in the depth of the wisdom of God and how he established this order of his holy church, in which we can find security, we can find order, tranquility, true and lasting peace. Let's take advantage of this, of everything that the church has to offer us to sustain us in this world. All the sacraments, including the Eucharist, which is about to be prepared for us, the Holy Bible, sacred Scripture, as we call it, the holy teachings of the church that help us navigate our lives, and the ways to pray, including this Mass and certainly Eucharistic adoration. Let us take advantage of all that the church has to offer. Let us let the Lord go to bat for us and keep us secure.